Hi everyone. So this is to walk you guys through your last essay. This essay is a little bit different than what you've done in the first two. You're creating a literary analysis over a short story for this essay. You guys have read In a Grove, and you guys are basically going to create an argument in a particular lens around In a Grove. So you're going to choose either a character to analyze, a theme to analyze, or a particular literary approach to analyze in relation to the short story. This is still an argument. It's just a little bit different than the last two essays that you've done. You're creating an original idea, argument, stance about something significant in the short story. So if, for example, you're talking about characters, you can choose a particular character to make an argument about. So you can say, I think this character represents X, Y, or Z, or I think this character is lying because of X, Y, or Z, or I think this character is telling the truth because of X, Y, or Z. But you're looking at the behaviors and the motivations and kind of understanding what about that character in the writing is making you believe this is sort of a reality or a truth. So you can look at the main characteristics of them. How do you know that this character is, has deep cultural roots? Or how do you know that this character has, negative beliefs about X, Y, or Z? Do any of these characteristics that they have conflict? Do they believe one thing but then do something else that's completely opposite? Is the character trustworthy? How do you know? What in the text shows you that they're telling the truth, or what in the text shows you that they're lying? What do they have to gain or lose? What is the background of each character, including maybe some of the smaller characters? If you look at theme, you can look at how the theme is relating a universal truth in the story. So what are we supposed to get out of the story? What evidence do you have from the actual text that shows that theme? If you look at an approach, you're looking at one of the schools of thought, a way that you read the story. So you could read it through a feminist lens, you could read it through a historical lens, you could read it through a new critical lens. There's a lot of different ways that you can read a story. And then you can kind of apply that learning to your analysis. So your essay, as usual, needs to have all the accepted parts of an essay. It needs to have a clear intro, main ideas, solid evidence, and counter-arguments with refutations. Your essay is due 3 to 4 pages in length, and it's due on Sunday, April 28th by midnight. MLA formatting is required. Everything checked through the safe plagiarism detection tool, and then make sure you have at least 3 pages down to the bottom. The only thing you need to turn in your essay is a final draft with a bibliography that has the short story listed on there. If you use any outside sources as well, which can help, make sure you cite them and then also put them on your bibliography as well. Remember that the final draft itself needs to be 3 pages. The bibliography does not count towards the page length requirements. So I've given you guys some example topics to kind of think about. If you're doing the character analysis, remember that your job is to help your audience understand how you are reading that character. How are you seeing that character? Look for motivations, behavior patterns, etc. that tell your audience what kind of person that character is in particular. And then find evidence, meaning find specific quotes from the text that prove that your reading of that character is correct. If you do something like a theme, you could do, say, truth versus perception. You could look at the theme of honor or virtue. How is that portrayed in the story? You could look at the idea of love. What is love? What does it mean in this story? Because love looks different based on different characters. You could look at the idea of tradition versus rebellion in this story. Who's following tradition? Who's rebelling? Maybe how does that play into different gender roles and things like that? If you choose an approach, you could look at a feminist reading of a particular character, whether that character is female or male in the story. You could look at the cultural reading and how does that culture relate to the theme of the story. You could look at a psychological reading of the character and see, perhaps you could argue that a character is suffering a particular psychological trauma or something like that. You could also look at a new critical reading, say about a particular symbol in the story and why that symbol is incredibly important or why it creates meaning. as you think about which one of these 3 options you want to do, think about what you want to say about this piece of literature. What struck you as interesting or important, or even what did you not like that you want to talk about? Again, you're not limited to these examples. Just use your own intuition and your own ideas to create an interesting argument about this story. You do not have to, in any way, verify your idea with me, but you are more than welcome to email me with questions. You are, again, supposed to have all the required parts of an argument. So if you're looking at a character and you're arguing that a character who is seemingly, say, the villain is actually the protagonist, you still have to keep in mind how to address the counter arguments and then refute them as well. So you could say that you understand that he seems like the villain to people because of X reason, but in reality, he's the protagonist because of blah, 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 blah. That's how you would still bring in that counter argument with refutation. So your essay needs to have the usual parts of an essay, a good concrete thesis or claim, and that's where you'll say you're looking at a particular character, a particular theme, or an approach, and what that argument is. So intro, body, paragraphs, conclusion, etc. And then you also need to have 3 reasons with solid evidence, which means pulling specific quotes from the text to support your ideas, and then 1 to 3 opposing views with refutations. Your final essay just needs to make sure that you have a clean, well-organized argument with good support from the text, meaning quotes, to illustrate your claims. And then include a bibliography with the text on it and any other sources that you may have used. So if you have questions about this, let me know. But as I said, choose what's most interesting to you, because generally if you choose something that is of interest to you, it's much, much easier to write the 3 required pages. So best of luck.